When HOA Karen started stealing my electricity to charge her Tesla, I fought back with a power surge she'll never forget. I never thought I'd become the neighborhood vigilante, but when you mess with someone's electricity bill in this economy, all bets are off. My name's Mike, and I've lived in Oak Ridge Estates for nearly 5 years now. It's your typical suburban HOA community. Manicured lawns, cookie-cutter houses, and rules about everything from your mailbox color to what day you can put your trash out. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The trouble started 3 months ago when I noticed my electricity bill had suddenly skyrocketed. At first, I blamed inflation or maybe my aging appliances, but even after cutting back on usage, the numbers kept climbing. $200 became $300, then nearly $400 the next month. Something wasn't adding up. I work from home as a software engineer, which means I'm pretty familiar with monitoring systems. So I installed a smart meter to track my power consumption by the hour. What I discovered made my blood boil. Every Tuesday and Friday night between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m., my power usage would spike dramatically. The weird part? I was usually asleep during those hours, and nothing in my house would explain that kind of drain. Enter Deborah Wilson, the self-appointed queen of the Homeowners Association. Everyone in the neighborhood called her HOA Karen behind her back. She lived in the house directly behind mine, where our properties connected at a shared fence line. Deborah drove a shiny new Tesla Model Y, which she never failed to mention, at every HOA meeting. "It's just so environmentally conscious," she'd say, looking down her nose at anyone who still drove a gas vehicle. Deborah was the type who'd report you for having your garbage cans out 10 minutes past the designated collection time. She once sent me a formal violation letter because my grass was half an inch too tall. The woman measured it with a ruler. And despite her constant preaching about environmental responsibility, she'd run her sprinklers during rainstorms and leave, her porch lights blazing all night. One Friday evening, I decided to stay up and investigate the mysterious power drain. Around 11:30 p.m., I heard a faint noise coming from my backyard. When I peeked through the blinds, I couldn't believe my eyes. There was Deborah in her designer pajamas and slippers, running an extension cord from my outdoor outlet underneath our shared fence and presumably to her house. I grabbed my phone and quietly slipped outside, following the cord. Sure enough, it led straight to her garage, where her precious Tesla was plugged in and charging. This woman, who made nearly twice my salary according to neighborhood gossip, was stealing my electricity to charge her $60,000 electric vehicle. The next morning, I knocked on Deborah's door with my electricity bills in hand. When she answered, her smile quickly faded as I held up the extension cord I'd confiscated the night before. "Would you care to explain this, Deborah?" I asked, keeping my voice calm despite my anger. "I don't know what you're talking about," she replied, attempting to close the door. I put my foot in the doorway. "Let me refresh your memory. You've been plugging your Tesla into my outlet for months. I have video evidence and timestamps that match exactly with my power surges." Deborah's face turned red, but not with embarrassment, with indignation. "My charging station has been back-ordered for months. What was I supposed to do? Pay for your own electricity? Use a public charging station? Not steal from your neighbors?" I suggested. "It's just a few dollars of electricity," she scoffed. "Don't be so dramatic." I showed her my bills. $300 above my normal usage is not a few dollars, Deborah. She looked at the bills and shrugged. "Prove it was me. The HOA board will never believe you over me. I'm the president, remember?" With that, she slammed the door in. My face. I stood there, seething. She was right about one thing. The HOA board was firmly in her pocket. But I wasn't about to let this go. After researching my options, I realized I had few legal remedies that wouldn't cost more than the electricity she'd stolen. The police would consider it a civil matter, and taking her to small claims court would be a headache with no guarantee of success. I needed another approach. I'm not an electrical engineer, but I have a buddy, Jason, who is. When I told him about my situation, he laughed so hard he nearly choked on his beer. So this HOA, Karen is basically vampire tapping your house to charge. Her luxury EV? He asked. Man, that takes some nerve. Tell me about it, I replied. And now she's basically daring me to do something about it. She thinks she's untouchable. Jason thought for a moment. You know, Tesla batteries are sophisticated but sensitive. They have protection systems, but those systems expect clean, consistent power. I could see the wheels turning in his head. What are you thinking? I'm thinking we give Karen exactly what she wants. Access to your outlet. But we modify it a bit first, he said with a mischievous grin. Nothing dangerous, just unpredictable. The next day, Jason came over with some equipment. He installed what he called a modified limiter on my outdoor circuit, essentially a device that would allow normal power flow for small devices like lawn tools, but would create power fluctuations when a large, continuous draw, like an electric vehicle charger, was detected. This will make the power supply unstable enough to confuse the Tesla's charging system, Jason explained. Best case scenario, it'll just stop charging. Worst case for her, it might damage the battery management system. Either way, she'll stop stealing your electricity. And this is legal? I asked. You're modifying your own property to protect it from unauthorized use, he replied. Just don't advertise what you did. I didn't have to wait long. That very Friday, around midnight, I heard the familiar sound of Deborah sneaking into my yard. Through my security camera, I watched as she plugged her extension cord into my outlet and snuck back to her house. For about 20 minutes, nothing happened. Then suddenly, I heard a faint electronic alarm sound coming from the direction of her house. On my smart meter app, I could see the power draw fluctuating wildly before dropping to zero. The next morning, I was washing my car when a tow truck pulled up to Deborah's house. The driver loaded her Tesla onto the flatbed while Deborah stood in her driveway, arms waving frantically as she argued with the driver. When she saw me watching, she stormed over. "What did you do to my car?" she demanded. I raised an eyebrow. "Your car?" "I haven't touched your car, Deborah. I've been nowhere near your property." "My Tesla won't start. The battery is completely dead and the system is showing critical errors," she shouted. "This happened right after last night." "After... You what?" I asked innocently. "After you stole my electricity again?" Her face turned crimson. "The Tesla service center says the battery management system is fried. Do you know how much that costs to replace?" I shrugged. "Probably about as much as the electricity you've stolen from me over the past 3 months. Karma's funny that way." "I'll sue you for this," she threatened. "For what? Modifying my own electrical outlet on my own property? Good luck explaining to a judge why your car was connected to my house without permission," I replied calmly. "But hey, feel free to bring it up at the next HOA meeting. I'm sure everyone would love to hear how the HOA president has been stealing from residents." The days following Deborah's Tesla disaster unfolded like the final act of a neighborhood drama that had been years in the making. Her precious Model Y remained conspicuously absent from her driveway for exactly 16 days. I counted each morning with quiet satisfaction as I sipped my coffee by the window. The tow truck had come and gone like a harbinger of justice, and the neighborhood seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief during her car's absence. It was as if a small but persistent storm cloud had temporarily lifted from our community. When the Tesla finally returned, gleaming under the afternoon sun as if nothing had happened, I noticed something different about Deborah's property. Construction. Workers had spent the previous 3 days installing what appeared to be a proper home charging station on the exterior wall of her garage. The irony wasn't lost on me. She could have invested in this months ago instead of resorting to theft, and now she was forced to pay not only for the installation, but also for what must have been an astronomical repair bill for her vehicles. Battery management system. Jason confirmed my suspicions when I called him about it. Tesla battery replacement runs anywhere from $12,000 to $20,000 depending on the model, he explained, unable to contain the amusement in his voice. And the best part? Her warranty probably wouldn't cover it since the damage resulted from improper charging methods. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of satisfaction, knowing that karma had extracted a price far greater than the electricity she'd stolen from me. For the first week after her car returned, Deborah employed an impressive variety of tactics to avoid crossing paths with me. She would wait inside her vehicle until I finished retrieving my mail before venturing to her own mailbox. If she spotted me working in my front yard, she would suddenly remember urgent business inside her house. The neighborhood morning walkers, a tight-knit group of retirees who knew everything about everyone, reported that she had started taking an entirely different route for her daily constitutional, one that specifically avoided passing by my property. Then came the envelope. It appeared in my mailbox on a Tuesday afternoon, unmarked except for my address, handwritten in an elegant script I didn't recognize. Inside was $200 in crisp $100 bills and a small note card bearing just 5 words, for the electricity. We're even. No signature, no explanation needed. The handwriting was deliberately disguised, but the message was crystal clear. Deborah was attempting to close this chapter without any formal acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Classic Karen behavior. Wanting to erase her misdeeds without facing actual consequences or offering a genuine apology. Considered returning the money or donating it to the Neighborhood Beautification Fund with a plaque acknowledging Deborah Wilson's generous contribution to community electricity conservation. The petty part of me found the idea delicious, but ultimately, I decided to keep the money. After all, it was rightfully mine, and sometimes the simplest resolution is the most satisfying. I did, however, use $200 of it to host an impromptu energy conservation awareness barbecue in my backyard the following weekend, inviting everyone on the block, including Deborah, who predictably declined with a terse response about prior commitments. The real shock came 3 weeks later at the monthly HOA meeting. I had arrived early, settling into my usual seat near the back of the community center meeting room. The crowd buzzed with speculation and whispered conversations. Apparently, rumors had been circulating, though no one had the complete story. At precisely 7 p.m., Deborah walked in, her usual imperious demeanor notably subdued. She straightened her papers at the podium, cleared her throat, and dropped a bombshell. Before we address the items on tonight's agenda, I would like to announce my resignation as president of the Oak Ridge Estates Homeowners Association, effective immediately. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Due to personal reasons and increasing professional responsibilities, I can no longer dedicate the necessary time to this position. Her eyes never met mine during her brief speech. But when Vice President Tom Harrington asked if anyone had questions, her gaze deliberately avoided my corner of the room. I remained silent, savoring the moment without needing to enhance it. Sometimes, victory is sweetest when simply observed. The news spread through the neighborhood with the speed and intensity of a California wildfire. By the following morning, my phone was buzzing with text messages from neighbors seeking confirmation of the rumors that had inevitably linked Deborah's resignation to our unspecified dispute. I maintained a diplomatic silence about the specific details, offering only vague references to differences in perspective regarding community resource sharing. My discretion only fueled the speculation, of course, but it also positioned me as the bigger person in this neighborhood drama. What I hadn't anticipated was the wave of quiet confessions that followed. Over the next several weeks, neighbors began stopping by with stories of their own Deborah encounters. Martha from 3 doors down revealed that Deborah had reported her for unauthorized landscaping after Martha planted native California wildflowers instead of the prescribed ornamental grasses. Elderly Mr. Jenkins confided that she had threatened to fine him for his grandson's basketball hoop, claiming it violated aesthetic guidelines. despite no such rule existing in our HOA covenant. Each story confirmed what I had suspected. Deborah's reign of petty tyranny had affected nearly everyone, but people had been too intimidated by her position to challenge her. My electric revenge had unintentionally broken the spell of fear she had cast over our community. Without intending to, I had become something of a neighborhood folk hero, the David who had taken down our local Goliath with nothing more than a modified electrical outlet and the courage to stand my ground. The most surprising development came from the HOA board itself. Under new leadership, the association undertook a comprehensive review of all bylaws and enforcement procedures. Several of Deborah's unofficial policies were exposed as having no basis in our actual community guidelines. The board even created a new appeals process for violation notices, ensuring that no single board member could unilaterally impose fines as Deborah had done for years. Tom Harrington, the new HOA president, invited me to join the board to fill a vacant position. "We need people who understand the difference between enforcing necessary rules and just wielding power," he explained during our conversation on my front porch. I accepted the position, promising myself that I would be the kind of board member who remembered that an HOA exists to serve the community, not control it. As for Deborah, she underwent a remarkable transformation in the months that followed. The once vocal neighborhood tyrant became almost invisible. She stopped attending HOA meetings altogether. Her previously immaculate front garden, which she had once used as a standard to judge others against, became merely adequate, maintained, but no longer showcased. It was as if her power had been directly connected to her willingness to interfere in others' lives, and now that one had diminished, so had the other. On the rare occasions when we did cross paths, at the local grocery, store, or community events she couldn't avoid, she would offer a tight smile and a curt nod before quickly finding reasons to be elsewhere. There was something almost theatrical about her avoidance techniques, as if we were actors in a silent movie about awkward encounters. I never pushed for more acknowledgement. Her changed behavior spoke volumes more than any verbal apology could have. 6 months after the incident, I finally removed Jason's modification from my outdoor outlet. The threat had passed, and somehow it felt like leaving it in place would be holding on to an unnecessary grudge. I had made my point. Justice had been served, and the community had healed in ways I never expected. The outlet returned to its mundane purpose of powering my lawn equipment and holiday decorations, though I sometimes gazed at it nostalgically, remembering its brief career as an instrument of neighborhood justice. The following spring, as I was, installing solar panels on my roof, a long-planned upgrade that had nothing to do with Deborah but everything to do with reducing my carbon footprint and electricity bill, I noticed movement in her driveway. Workers were removing her Tesla charging station. A week later, the Tesla itself disappeared, replaced by a conventional hybrid vehicle. Whether this downsizing was financial or simply a desire to distance herself from memories of the incident, I'll never know. We don't exactly exchange Christmas cards. The most lasting impact, however, wasn't on Deborah or even on me. It was on our community. Something had fundamentally shifted in the neighborhood dynamic. People planted more diverse gardens, displayed children's artwork in windows, and personalized their homes in small ways that previously might have drawn Deborah's criticism. The HOA still maintained standards, but with a flexibility and humanity that recognized we were a community of people first, property values second. Looking back now, 2 years later, I realized that my revenge did more than just stop a power-stealing neighbor. It redistributed a different kind of power throughout our community. My modified outlet hadn't just fried a Tesla battery, it had short-circuited a system of intimidation that had governed our neighborhood for years. And that, even more than the satisfaction of seeing justice served, makes me smile when I remember. The night the lights went out on HOA Karen's reign. As for the lesson in all this, well, karma may be free, but electricity isn't, and neither is a Tesla battery replacement. But the real cost and value lies in standing up for what's right, even when the person in the wrong has all the apparent power. Sometimes all it takes is one person willing to flip the switch.